p.m. I think, right?
No, you're a minute early.
Oh, all right.
It's okay.
Dang it.
That's all right,
good,
Dan. Better be early than late.
That's all right. We can do a preemptive 7 p.m. So we have 5 public hearings happening this evening, all in 5-minute increments, with regards to applications of expansion of premises for food and liquor sales for various restaurants. And then we also have a couple at the end that aren't public hearings. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open the public hearing with regards to the application of Devlin's Tavern Incorporated. Actually, before I do that, let's make a quick roll call for present of the members of the board. Dan Spencer, Chairman, present. Michael Connor, Vice Chairman.
Here.
Don Martinez.
Here.
I know. I was looking at the agenda. Sorry.
It's okay. I'm getting his emails lately, so.
Cynthia McNulty. You're here. I know you are.
Some you.
Present.
There you are. And Bob Biaggi.
Present.
All right, we have a full board. All right, so we have a public hearing on the application of Devlin's Tavern Incorporated. Liz Devlin manages to alter the premises by adding outdoor seating to the sidewalk area in front of the restaurant and extending their all alcohol license to this area. The public hearing will be held in an online virtual meeting room via Zoom technology. The link can be found on the town's website. The premises to be altered is at 15 Main Street, units C10 and C11. So I'm going to, before I get into this public hearing, I just want to default to our town planner, Mr. Kupfer. You've had our inspection team going to the 5 locations of the public hearing, of the current public hearings, with regards to inspecting their location, yourself, the fire department, Board of Health, as well as a building inspector. Do you have any opposition, any questions, concerns? Do you approve, or do your team approve of all 5 of those extension of premises?
Yep. Yeah. So the team, like you mentioned, of myself, the Deputy Fire Chief Mark Poirier, the Building Commissioner, and the Board of Health agent inspected each one of these 5. We did a walkthrough with the owner of what the proposal is. That's before you this evening, as well as doing a security and safety check of the interior, because it's been some time for some of these restaurants. So all of that has been reviewed and approved by all 4 of the groups that went out there. So yeah, we're very much in support of this evening.
Okay, and the reason I ask is obviously we want to try to expedite these hearings. They are public hearings, so the first one has been opened. Do we have any questions, comments, or concerns with regards to the application of Devlin's?
Devlin's is the only one that's asking for this to be on an annual basis. Everyone else is temporary, as the governor's orders, it will expire on November 1st.
Okay, all right, or when the stay-at-home is lifted,
Yeah,
right?
So,
Or whatever
Mr.
we
Chairman,
call it thing.
I have
Yes,
a
Tom.
question.
Yep.
Yeah, I have a question. I'm in favor of all this. I just read through all the applications, and there's just different people addressed the questions, gave different answers. So when it says seating capacity, maybe this is for Mr. Kupfer, does it say an additional 22? Is that what that, when I look at total square footage, it's not really a square footage number on the application. It's looks like it's just 86 inches by 11, number of entrances, number of exits, and it says seating capacity. I'm just trying to understand, like, there are other applicants that had 150 or 125, and I'm like, so I'm just, can you answer that for me so I understand what we're asking here?
Yeah, so we looked at it not in terms of square footage or capacity of the inside. I mean, that's going to be heavily regulated already through the building commissioner and the health agent. What we're looking at is, what can reasonably be done on the outside. And so what we did was we walked through with the owner to mark out, delineate exactly where they're looking to do it. So doing that so that we preserve fire radius to get a truck around, proper egress. And so we marked that out, and then we stated that here are the CDC requirements. So you have to be minimum 6 feet apart per table. So we kind of worked backwards into how many tables you could get out of that. And each one of the restaurants, I will say, took it very seriously, did not try to overcrowd it. And so that's what we worked backwards in getting a healthy, safe number for each restaurant.
I guess I didn't get, and maybe I didn't ask the question correctly. So what I'm looking at here is Liz Devlin is asking for seating capacity 22. That would be an additional 22. How many tables, Liz? How many tables is that?
That is 5 tables.
5 tables? Okay.
Yes.
All right. That's all. I'm just trying to understand, because there was one other that's well over 100. And I don't know if they're asking for an additional 100 or if they're asking, we'll get to that one afterwards. Thanks. I'm good. That's great.
All right.
That one might have been like their total restaurant, but on the last page of every application that I sent you, it should be a diagram.
Yep. Yeah, I would thread through it. I'm good. I mean, I just wanted to understand, because there was discrepancies in how other owners answered the question.
Right. The ABCC application is just hard to decipher in
I
general.
understand. Yeah. No. Yep. I'm not complaining. I'm just asking questions to understand.
It's a
Can I
state
ask
form.
a question, please?
Go ahead, Bob.
Mr. Chairman, I just have a question regarding Devlin's. I've went around and looked at some of the restaurants and some of their what they've laid out. Does Devlin's have any kind of barriers or such blocking the seating, the outdoor seating area from the parking lot?
They have a sidewalk. They have a curb.
A curb, okay.
Jim, right? That was acceptable to you and Deputy Chief Fourier, correct?
That's right. We actually went back out there because we know that's a requirement of the ABCC, is some sort of raised structure. But this one is rather unique that it has raised sidewalk and a raised curbing before even approaching it. So we didn't feel it was necessary to put, Jersey barriers or something like that when it's not necessarily in the parking lot itself.
Okay, thanks.
All right. I'm going to pause the 7 p.m. Public hearing so we can open the 7:05 public hearing, the application of Bellingham Palace Pizza LLC, George Hatchapoulos, manager, to alter the premises by adding additional outside seating. The public hearing will be taking place on a virtual meeting via Zoom. We're going to kind of hold that one until we finish the 7 o'clock one. But that one's open now. Any other questions, concerns, comments from my colleagues with regards to Devlin's Tavern?
I do not have any, Mr.
I move
Chairman.
that we approve the proposal.
All right, well, I'll
Do
entertain
we
a
move
motion.
anything on this? To accept the
I'm going to
proposal?
ask if there's anyone from the public to speak on this. Hearing nothing, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing for 7 p.m. Devlin's Tavern.
So
With
moved.
we have a first from Mr. Martinez. Do we have a second?
Second,
We have a second, Mrs. McNulty. Hearing no other discussion, can I get a motion to approve the extension of premises for Devlin's Tavern?
And just a clarifying question, did you say this is an annual one versus all the others, November?
Yes, this is one that she want. Yeah, they're going to want to do annually seasonal, I believe,
Why
right?
would we do that?
Why would we do that, or why would we not do that?
Why would we do that at this point, extend it beyond November 1st?
Well, it's seasonal. Is it going to be seasonal, Liz? If you want to address that
Yeah.
one.
It's going to be seasonal, and we figured we'd go forward with the permanent part of it since we've already started this.
Yeah.
It was just going to be easier.
So
And
seasonal obviously is based on the weather that we can never predict up here anyway, Liz. So
Right,
maybe like, May to September type of time frame.
right. It just all, it all depends on the weather. It depends on how long we're going to be dealing with this with the COVID, because that's, it's a great option for people who don't want to be inside with people, to be able to be outside and
That's me.
fresh air.
and to touch on that, I think
Okay.
I think the businesses in Bellingham were victims to our proactive approach, because we encouraged them to go ahead and apply for this, and they had to go ahead and pay the ABCC, and they had to do the abutters list, which requires the actual mailings and all that. And, and then Saturday, the governor said, yeah, you can open outside seating. So she's already made the investment. If we can make this seasonal, I have no problem with that. Do we want to establish, or I should ask Liz if you want to establish what the seasonal is going to be as far as the dates go?
Yep, sure, absolutely. We can do that. September, October?
So are we looking like May 1st through October 31st?
That sounds
or-
perfect. Yep, that sounds
Right.
perfect. You caught me off guard.
I know, I understand. That'll be the original. Hillary, is that what we're looking at as far as the ABCC goes, as far as seasonal goes? Is what-
It's not really considered seasonal. She's gonna have the license to, she's permitted to now to have these tables outside whenever she really wants.
Even better. So if it's nice outside, she can do it.
Yeah, and to answer Michael's question, she had already started the process with the ABCC, so she decided she'd like to continue to do this.
I guess my clarifying is that for Devlin's, it's more of a sidewalk situation versus the others are taking up actual parking lots.
Right.
Okay.
Yep.
That's
Yep.
fine. Thank you.
So,
Yeah.
Mr. Spencer, the only
Yes, sir.
question I have, I'm not against this at all, but I know that we've had restaurants come before us in the past, and we've asked them to make significant investments for fencing. I look at Plaza del Mec, Plaza, and then the older 50s. They weren't taking up parking spots, but we did require them to put in extensive fencing because of alcohol going over. Listen, I just want to make sure that we're consistent across the board with how we treat all of our restaurateurs in town. To say you can't, you can do this without a fence, and then others we've said you have to use a fence. I'm not against them. Don't get me wrong, but I think we need to be consistent with how we vote.
Yeah, and again, I'll defer to Jim on this one. The concept is there has to be a barrier, if you will. Jim, you want to touch on that?
Yeah, well, in terms of the ABC, they want a raised structure of some kind, but that's more so for safety. We don't want cars barreling in and those sort of things. I think what Mr. Martinez is referring to is something a little bit different, something that capture people rather than vehicles exiting the premises.
Exactly. Well, I just know that the police have come before us before, and they've inspected and said, hey, we're okay with this. But they wanted a 6-foot fence, or I know in the case of 50s, in the case of the Plaza del Mexico over there at I call it the BJ's parking lot. And I'm sure Julie likes to hear that. But my point is that even if, and I look at PJ's, they have this nice patio and they have a fence around it. It's really to deter people from sneaking, drinks, whatever it's meant. My thinking is if they do this, maybe there's some sort of and I've seen many restaurants in my travels where they have sidewalk tables, but they have a little bit of a fence there just to deter people coming up, walking into the seating, but also just as a little deterrent. So I'm not trying to make this difficult. I'm really not, but I feel that we need to be consistent with how we treat these situations.
May I speak?
Please.
Sure.
Liz.
My plan is, I realize right now this is temporary due to the COVID. So I would like to open up as is, but down the line, once we're open and start, recouping some money and getting money, I would like to put a fence in,
Okay.
as the ABCC likes to see anyways, just because it makes a lot less babysitting, and it's a good thing. And I do want to see that down the road when this becomes permanently. I just can't do it right now.
All right.
So then, Mr. Chair, I would recommend that maybe we don't vote on that part of it. on the seasonality. Let Liz get through everything, recoup her money, the whole bit, and then when she's ready, she can come back before us with a plan, before the board with a plan, and work through the normal channels for
All right. Would you,
permanent outdoor seating.
sure. Would you like to revise the motion?
Is everybody well, I guess I'll just
I
ask.
don't know. I feel like she's already gone through the motions of having the abutters, people coming on to the call today, and I think we need to get behind these restaurants that are trying to get above board and, fair business practices. We have her word that she's going to do that. I don't see why she wouldn't follow
Absolutely
through with that.
And right now, they're not requiring it with these temporary,
Right.
things.
Exactly. All right. So
I've done everything I've supposed to, I've done everything the right way, like everyone's asked. All the town officials have given me a go-ahead. They've done the walkthrough. They're happy with it all.
No, Liz, this isn't about you opening up now. I'm in favor of that. What I'm
Okay.
just putting an objection to, Mr. Chair, is making this permanent. That's all. I
right,
think I'm very much in favor of it.
I'm going to interrupt real quick.
Yep.
Everybody, I'm going to open the public hearing on the application of PJ's Bar and Grill at 7:10, and I'm going to open the public hearing for the application of JPM Management LLC doing business as Rock and Coal and a Clock Manager at 7:15. So we can, those hearings are currently open as well. So continue, Don. I'm sorry.
The only motion I would say is that we approve this, but we don't approve the permanence of it, just to make sure that we can go back and review her plans when she's ready to submit the permanent plan. I'll be very much in favor of it. But I believe that the business should go through the same due diligence for the permanent part, even though it's seasonal, but for the permanent part, we should go through the same due diligence that every other business has had to go through for outdoor seating.
All right. Well, we had a first, we had a second. Don, you made the original. If you'd like to revise your original,
I did. I
motion.
would like to revise it. That it was so moved, so I'm just going to say that we approve. That we approve the application that is put forth before us, but will cease when the COVID, when it changes. I mean, I'm not really sure how. Maybe I can get a little help here, Dennis or Jim, on how to make this motion. I'm very much in favor, but I just don't want to put that piece where it's annual, like it's permanent.
Why don't we make it contingent on her having a barrier? It's COVID,
good idea.
COVID related and contingent seasonal on the barrier that will be put forth.
The seasonal portion. So I'll just rephrase that. That I make a motion to approve based upon the COVID regulations. However, the seasonal aspect will be contingent upon going through a normal process for the approval and to put up a fence.
All right, we have a revised motion. Do we have a second?
I have a question, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Does this mean that Liz is going to incur any additional costs because of what we're just amending right now?
Not unless there's going forward next year or once the COVID restrictions are released. So she's going to open tomorrow as she's opening as planned. And then going forward, I believe, and Jim or anyone else correct me if I'm wrong, that there needs to be a barrier, some type of barrier device if she wants to do this next year.
So
go ahead.
Can I make a suggestion? We approved the extension of alcohol license to a patio area that she's proposed to us. And either at renewal or at the beginning of we can make it contingent on the renewal or at the beginning of the season next year. She comes before the board with her plans as far as fencing, but we do not have another public hearing because she's paid for the hearing. She's notified about put an application fee into the ABCC. So maybe it's something
great idea.
Bring her before the board and just present her plans before we say okay for another outdoor seating next year. Does that make sense?
As long as I don't want Liz to incur any more cost. I really don't.
Right, exactly.
I do not want that. However, I just think we need to be consistent in how we've treated all other business. I know this is different times, but we should be able to review the plan before. And I think if it's next year's permit, that's fine. It won't be any additional money.
Right. Yes, so we'll go before the ABCC as presented, and then just as a board, we can have Liz come back next year before she opens her patio and presents us with as far as.
Yep, perfect.
I like it, Hillary.
Good
Thank
job.
you.
Thank you.
Liz, you good with that?
I'm good with that. Thank you.
All
Liz,
right.
I don't mean to make it difficult. Not
We
at
have
all.
we have a first from Mr. Martinez. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second, Mr. Connor. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, 0. All right, we're gonna go to the public hearing with regards to Bellingham Palace Pizza LLC. And again, Jim, you've already talked that you've been down there with your inspection team. You're happy with the plans they laid out, as well as the fire department, the Board of Health, and the building inspector.
Correct. Yep.
This is a public hearing. Do we have anyone from the public or my colleagues that want to speak upon this? All right, hearing none, I will entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So
So
moved.
moved.
Second.
Yes and yes, we'll take it. All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed,
Aye.
0. All right, can I entertain a motion to grant approval in the application for the extension of premises for Bellingham Palace Pizza, Bellingham Palace Pizza LLC for the extension of premises?
So moved.
Cindy and Bob will go first and second. All right, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed,
Aye.
Aye.
0. All right, now we're gonna go to the public hearing on the application of PJ's Bar and Grill. Again, we've had the blessing of our town planner with the fire department, Board of Health, and the building inspector with regards to their plans. Do I have any of my colleagues or anyone from the public who wants to speak upon this?
Mr. Chair, this is.
Yes, sir.
The question, so it's for Julie. I'm just seeing the numbers again. Seating capacity 100. That's your total occupancy for outdoor and indoor, correct? Is Julie still there?
She's there.
Julie, you're muted.
She's on mute.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yep. Yeah.
Oh,
I was just looking at the seating capacity. So you're not looking to extend by an additional 100. You're
No.
looking. No. Okay.
I wish.
I'm just. Yeah, I know. I just wanted to be clear because
We know this.
again, I'm looking at your diagram, just trying to follow it all. Okay.
So no, it's just our indoor seating with our patio already includes 100. So when I was answering that, I thought that that's what it was asking us, like
Okay.
what our capacity is already.
Okay.
didn't-
Great. Okay.
Sorry.
And what's the increase? How many
So
tables
it's
outdoors?
10 tables, so it's
Okay.
40 people,
All right.
40 more seats.
I'm looking at it. It's fine. Okay.
All right, any
Yep.
further comments, questions, concerns from my colleagues or the public?
Nice touch on the flowers, Julie.
Thank you. Those Jersey barrier things are so ugly. I couldn't leave them like that.
All right, I will entertain a motion to close this public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
First from Mrs. McNulty, a second from
Thanks,
Mr.
you guys.
Biaggi, I believe. I will entertain a motion to approve the application for the extension of premises for
So moved.
PJ's.
So moved.
We have a first from Mr. Martinez. Do we have a second? We have a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, 0. Public hearing with regards to Rock and Coal, Anna Clark. Again, it is a public hearing, so I'll open up for comments, questions, or concerns with regards to this scenario to my colleagues and or the general public.
Yeah, this is Bob. I just had a question regarding the proposed the diagram that was provided for the proposed outdoor seating. A little more detail as far as how many tables and such would be outside. Anna?
12 tables, 6 at each table can fit, and
Okay.
that can fit.
So 12.
So 72
Okay.
people.
Okay, and will it be set up similar to like a parking lot structure with Jersey barriers around it, some protection from the
Yes,
parking lot?
my landlord, Joe, he put them out today, so it looks nice.
Oh, good. All right, I'll take a ride over. Thank you.
All right, thank you,
All
Bob.
Any more questions, comments, concerns from my colleagues and or the public? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So
So
moved.
moved.
We'll go Cindy and then Dawn as a second.
Sure, absolutely.
Good with that?
Yeah.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? 0. I will entertain a motion to approve the extension of premises for Rock and Coal.
So moved.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Dawn went first. Do we get a second?
Second.
Second.
Bob, Cindy beat you again.
Fine.
We have a first from Dawn, second from Cynthia. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 0. Okay. Our 7:20. I didn't open this one up, so we're going to open this one up a little bit late. Public hearing on the application of Phantom Food Corporation doing business as Grumpy's, Brian LaHouse, manager, to alter the premises by adding outdoor seating in the parking lot and extending their all alcohol restaurant license to this area. Okay. So again, I'm going to say that Jim has reviewed this with his team. They're okay with it as far as the planner, fire department, board of health, and building inspector. So it is a public hearing. I will entertain any kind of comments, concerns from my colleagues on the board first. All right,
Just
hearing
it
none.
looks like the diagram said looks like about 12 tables as well, Brian.
Is Brian here?
I don't see Brian here, but
right.
Bob, you're pretty much spot on it. That would be the max, I think there.
All
Okay.
right. All right. Any comments, questions, concerns from the public?
Yes. This is
If you
Justin
could please.
Flynn, 11
and-
Essex Street.
Yes, sir.
So we live across from the Grumpy's parking lot,
Okay.
and I was just curious, when does this go in effect?
If it passes tonight, it will go in effect tomorrow.
Okay, because they are serving right now. The tables are out. They put up the barriers and tables yesterday, and there is legit business going on in the parking lot right now. So
Well,
that seems like
if
a
they're
move
doing
around
if
this.
they're serving just food outside, then that was in effect as of today.
Okay, and what time?
This is strictly for the liquor license.
So for food and alcohol, what time are they allowed to serve until outside?
Their normal business hours. I'm not sure. Hillary, do you have those offhand?
So alcohol can go to 1?
Whatever it is
I'm
now.
not sure.
I don't think
Yeah,
they
whatever
changed
Whatever their current terms of liquor licenses is, that as that order be.
Give me a second, I'll grab it, but I mean, I
Yep.
think that as a board, if you guys want to stipulate something else, that's totally up to you guys.
Okay. All right.
It just seems like the back part of Grumpy's, the parking lot, is residential mostly.
Okay.
There's houses behind it. There's houses across from the parking lot on both sides. And if people are going to be outside till 1 o'clock drinking, I got 2 kids that are 12 and under here.
No,
Like,
certainly.
it's an issue. I mean, we've had problems with drunk people in the past, but they're in the building until they go to their car. But if they're going to be outside till 1 and summer's coming, people will want to be outside now that there's outside seating. We want to know that that's going to happen.
Right.
Yes, their license is until 1 a.m. right now.
Just until 1 a.m. All right.
I mean, the barrier is up to your knee. They're just cinder blocks right now. So there's no sound barrier. There's nothing. It's just, we know how loud they get out there.
Yeah, no, a valid concern.
Did you want to say anything? My wife's here.
Yeah.
No? Okay.
All right. Any comments from anyone else as far as that goes? Do we want to look at restricting alcohol service outside for hours wise?
It's Michael. I mean, it's a fair point that the other locations aren't as close to the residential. Would the board consider 10 o'clock weekdays and 11 o'clock weekends?
I'd be in favor of that, Mr. Connor.
It doesn't.
I mean, I don't want to get some franchise grumpies, but it is a residential area, and the speaker had a fair point.
I mean, I know Brian. He's a good guy. Like he lives in our neighborhood, so it's just it's a concern of ours with young kids. And
I think Brian might be getting on right now, actually.
Mr. Chairman, do we have what is the noise ordinances? Can that help guide restaurants in terms of how late they can be open if they're outside?
Now, the noise ordinance doesn't really speak to that. I will state, though, the hours that a planning board typically looks at is in the 10 to 11 o'clock range for Pulaski Boulevard for things we permitted recently.
Okay. Is Brian on right now? Is that, nope.
Yep.
Oh, there you go. Brian, are you on right now?
Yes.
All right. So we have a concern from an abutter with regards to extending their liquor license, your liquor license out to the parking lot to 1 a.m. With regards to possible noise issues. Do you want to address that, or, as far as what you would think you can do to control it, or would you be amicable to restricting the outdoor alcohol sales to a earlier time?
All right, so their concern is my alcohol sales being outside?
Well, abutting a residential area and having people outside drinking until 1 a.m., closer to their homes.
There's only one, just there's only one home, so I guess I can kind of guess who it is. I'm a little surprised, but that's fine. I mean, what would you suggest? I mean, I'm obviously not planning on being out there till 1 o'clock in the morning to begin with at this point. I mean, that's insane. If for no other reason, then that's just, I mean, it's not conducive to be out there at that time.
Mr. Connor from the board suggested that we limit the alcohol sales outside to 10 p.m. on weekdays and 11 p.m. on weekends.
I would request that that's modified to include Thursday as part of the weekend.
All right. And sorry, was it Mr. Flynn? Sorry.
Yes.
All right. Is that something that you'd be okay with, or?
That's much better than 1 o'clock.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's conducive to that anyway. Nor would it be fair to most of the other properties in the area, to be honest with you, are my properties with my tenants, and I'm not looking to obviously irritate them any more than they've been in the last 3 months.
Yeah, no, and again, we're trying to. The whole idea of doing this is to try to get some businesses back in business, but we certainly don't want to do that to a detriment of other people.
No.
There's a lot of people on edge these days, and based on different scenarios. But if Mr. Flynn, if you're okay with that, and Brian, you're okay with that, then I have no problem. If everyone's good to go with that,
Yeah. I'm not trying to shut anything down. I just don't want people outside at 1 o'clock drinking. That's all.
No, I get you. I have you. All right, I get you. All right. So, Mr. Connor, then, is it Thursday through Saturday night until 11, and Sunday through Wednesday, 10 p.m.? Is that what we're looking at then?
If that works for everybody, yes.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Yeah, man.
I think that's a great compromise on both parts.
Fantastic, and I'm
Thanks,
glad
Brian.
that we can get this worked out with everyone. That's great. All right, so then I will entertain a motion, unless there's anyone else to speak on this. I will entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
All right, we have a first from Mr. Biaggi, a second from Mrs. McNulty. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? 0. I will entertain a motion to grant the extension of premises for Phantom Food Corp. doing business as Grumpy's. Brian LaHouse, manager, with the outdoor liquor license, because the food license is what it is, but we're extending the liquor license to be Sunday through Sunday through Wednesday night to 10 p.m., Thursday through Saturday until 11 p.m. All those. Sorry, I'm looking for that motion. Let's go that. We got one for Mr. Biaggi. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second for Mr. Connor. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? 0. All right. That is all our public hearings tonight. That was
Thank you.
exhausting. I'm very
All right.
confused.
Good job.
All right. Next on our agenda, Mr.
Have a nice night.
DiMartino. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. Good luck, everyone. Hope you all get some sales and get some money back from all this lost revenue for the last 3 months.
Just a note to the public too, be patient. These servers and such this is all new to them as well. Be patient when you go out to eat and don't expect, the quick service that you used to inside a restaurant. So be aware.
Excellent.
Hey, Jim, Mr. Chairman, if I could pose
Yes.
a question to Jim.
Yep.
Where we've just approved all these, do we have a way to get the word out to the residents of Bellingham that these establishments have been approved for outdoor seating and kind of give them some props?
Yeah, we can work on something like that.
Okay, I can work with you on that if you want.
Great.
Is that okay with social media as well for board members to start to broadcast that message?
Yeah, I don't see why not. Yeah,
Part
absolutely.
of the record now, right? It's part of the record. It's proved. It's public information. Okay,
Exactly.
thanks.
It's a public meeting right now.
Yeah.
So, all right, Dawn, DPW.
I was just thinking if they don't necessarily need to be on, but Uno's and Beef Barn were kind of last minute add-ons, and if they're here, maybe get those. I don't know.
Okay.
Just
Yeah,
thinking.
actually, are they here right now?
Uno's is on.
Uno's is on. All right. And how about Beef Barn?
I don't see him.
All right.
I don't was necessarily going to be on because Jim has spoken to him and he was.
Yeah.
He had.
So then we can jump ahead then because it's not a public hearing for Uno's and Beef Barn. So as far as that goes, Jim, do you want to touch upon Uno's and Beef Barn?
Yeah, sure. So we did the same walkthroughs as we did with the other restaurants. These just came in a little bit later. I know Gene here is from Uno's. I could probably walk you through his, but it's just essentially the side of the restaurant that faces Hartford Avenue, but minus a good drive lane so that if in an emergency, fire can get around. Putting up barriers and all of the same as all the other restaurants. Beef Barn is somewhat more straightforward. It's the outdoor areas in which they already have picnic tables. It's just extending that area for the ability to carry a drink out there, essentially. You can already have food out there.
And for the record, they can do this according to the governor's order at this point without. Well, I guess they give it back to the local licensing authority to okay this. But so Uno's is going to be where the normal entrance is to the left. If you're looking at the normal entrance, it's going to be to the left, and it's going to be barricaded off. Correct?
Yes.
How much additional seating, Gene?
What's that?
How much additional seating are you going to be putting outside?
I don't really know how many more tables we'll get on there. It's pretty much like a 20 by 63 area.
Okay.
So, we're going to try to, social distance and 6 feet and maybe let's call it 10.
Yeah, 8 to 10, I would think probably.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, nothing. And if you guys want, we will abide by the same hours of 10 o'clock Monday through Thursday or Sunday through Thursday, and then Thursday, Friday, Saturday, we'll do until 11.
I mean, yeah, it's up to you. It's, you're not necessarily in a residential area, so
Okay.
I think that if we do the extension of premises, it's based on what your normal liquor license is approved for. Again, this isn't a public hearing because, well, the governor didn't tell us we could do things until Saturday, so we arranged the public hearings, you know, trying to get ahead of the 8 ball. So, but certainly if there are complaints, I'm sure we'll hear from people, and I'm sure you'll do the right
And
thing.
we'll conform.
So, all right. So at this point, then I will look for a motion to approve Uno's with their extension of premises.
So
So
moved.
moved.
First from
Second.
Mrs. McNulty, second Mr. Biaggi. All those in favor say aye.
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 0. Good luck, Gene.
Yeah, thank you very much. Have a great night.
You as well. And then Beef Barn, same thing. At this point, I will look for a motion to approve the extension of premises services for Beef Barn.
So moved.
We have first from Mr. Biaggi. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. Mr. Martinez, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
0.
As far as Barn, he might still jump on, I'm not sure, but they're not even gonna table service. They're still gonna continue with takeout, and this is just so we can formally say that if someone walks in, purchases a sandwich, can purchase a beer, go sit outside and have their food.
Okay. Yeah, they're not gonna have like wait staff coming out there.
No,
Okay.
I just want to know what we're doing.
Thank you, Hillary.
Yeah.
All right, Dawn. Now you can go. Did he leave us? Is he still? There he is.
No, he's there.
Mr. DiMartino, with regards to stormwater.
Can you hear me? I'm having
We can-
technological problems.
Sure.
We hear you.
Okay, because I can speak to you through the phone, but I've got you on screen for some reason. The exact same laptop that I've been using every day for our LAPC meeting and used this afternoon says it doesn't have a speaker tonight. So
All right.
maybe it's my home office. I don't know. Maybe it resists. But anyway, I forget how we ran the agenda. I couldn't pull that up in my efforts to get back. I think I had PFAS in the agenda. We have yet to receive the latest results. So as far as moving forward with a request for funds for design engineering on that, we're still on hold.
All right.
We did, I think I had the appraisals of the properties along Route 126, 140 for the road project. Is that right? Help
Yep.
me out.
We're going in reverse, but we'll go PFAS. We have
Okay.
nothing.
Okay.
But one thing I want to bring about the PFAS though is we're waiting for the state requirements because they're going to be more restrictive than the federal requirements. Correct?
Well, that's what's proposed right now is significantly more restrictive,
Okay.
but that's been proposed since before the pandemic, and everything is on hold and may be on
All right.
hold for a long time.
All right. So we don't go
So
to.
our results are better.
Okay. So we're not dealing with that tonight. So then the easement we'll just work our way backwards. Easement acquisition
Okay.
appraisals.
Okay, the appraisals came in this afternoon. I talked to Dennis and Jim knows and sent them to Mary. Not entirely surprising. It is very costly. It's around $701,500 for the parcels that we're taking. Having seen the plans of what we're doing, there's a significant amount of widening. And thank goodness that we own Domino's in the park. But the abutters down from number 1 North Main Street to Santander, as well as Walgreens, and the biggest impact is on the Rockland Trust Bank, where it appears we'll lose 3 parking spaces, and it's a significant amount of acquisition necessary to make a proper turning radius at that intersection. So how we find the money is not quite determined yet, but the appraisals are in hand at $700,000. We don't want to get into them in detail because there may be negotiations, so that might have to be done in executive session. But we will have to go to town meeting looking for a number. That is the minimum number. That is the exact number that the appraisal has, whether we want to put some more or find some more to put in it at town meeting? That's sort of the question.
Now this is the project that we're getting nearly $2 million from the state for as well,
Correct.
right? So
Yep, yeah.
we're widening essentially the town center. Obviously there's some town-owned property that we don't have to purchase, which works out well, but so is that requiring a vote tonight, or is it just informational?
I don't know what your requirement is before a town meeting article. I have just got the information today. I'll go to the finance committee probably right before, and I told them right before town meeting, I didn't expect to get this soon.
Okay.
I don't know if the selectmen won't want to vote to support the article or something of that degree, or they want to hold off and do it next week.
I say until we get final numbers, you know? To your point, Don, about maybe additional negotiations, that kind of thing, maybe just wait till we get final numbers to put it to any kind of vote.
Well, the only problem is, the only problem with that is, well, hopefully if we get the final numbers, it'll be less from negotiations. Don.
I don't think so.
All right. So then I guess my question to you is, what would we approve as far as number goes and funding to be determined, is what a motion to be made tonight would be if we did that? Or again, if you want to take another week, we're meeting again next week to kind of figure out where we're at. Why don't we
That's fine.
let's talk about this next week. All right?
Yeah, I think you need to see the information, and I think next week would be much better. We had informed the Finance Committee that we'd be looking at the night of town meeting. So Mary and I will be getting together and looking at funding options. I think this is going to have to be, some sort of debt authorization, but there are big numbers involved. So we'll take a week and get back to you with information.
All right, that'll work out. All right, so you want to talk about the Curtis Pond Apartments capacity?
Yeah, that's pretty simple, routine and anticipated CRPCD capacity approval. So that clears their way to connect to the sewer when they hopefully get under construction.
All right. Now, when this is this is done, and let's just say let's just say the Bonvie project goes through with sewerage. Where are we at as far as capacity goes?
Well, the Bonvie doesn't affect this because this is just for the north of town, CRPCD.
Oh, it is, okay. So this is the okay.
Yeah.
All right. So it's not the
And-
all right.
And I think
It's not the one socket one.
I can't remember the draft, but whatever you're looking at says down at the bottom how many more homes, single family homes we could construct, and I think it's
All
a
right,
number
600,
like 670.
650. Yep. Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah, so we're still not close to fully using our capacity at Charles River. We're almost completely unlimited with capacity in one socket.
All right, that's perfect. So basically we can get rid of our 40B obligations and still have capacity. I like it. Win-win. Any comments, questions, concerns from my colleagues?
I'm good.
All right. I will request a motion to approve the request for the Curtis Pond Apartments sewer capacity in the amount of, what's the amount we're looking at? Oh boy. Oh, 56. 56.
Don't even worry about it. I just say approve the application.
To approve the application that Don put forth with
Well done.
Curtis.
So moved.
It looks like it's 5,600.
Yeah. So moved.
All right, we have a first from Mr. Martinez. Do we have a second?
Second.
Hillary, it's
Second.
not 5,600. So.
All right. We'll go with
typo on my letter. What's that maybe?
We'll go with 15,600. How's that? Up until
That's fine. The number is arbitrary because the Title V gives you one thing, actual gives you an entirely different number, and
all right,
it's in the range of 20,000 actually.
All right. Oh yeah. So proponent.
I'll
Daily
just put
flow of wonder.
appropriate application for the CRPCD capacity request in my notes. How's that?
That'll work.
Because actually, the application doesn't even say what we allocate for capacity. It says what the Title V is.
We still have a boatload afterwards. That's the good thing.
Who was
All right.
the second motion?
We, Mr. Martinez made the motion, Mr. Connor second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, 0. All right, the quick one now, the stormwater.
Okay, all in
Enterprise
favor?
fund. Yeah. Well, I'll tell you. Go ahead, Don. I'm sorry.
Well, anyway, so I sent a quick memo out and sort of maybe oversimplifies, but it's not all that complicated in reality. We're looking at the funds in order to generate cash so we can cover the cost to comply with the MS4 regulations. It makes sense for us to base our system in almost all, I think all of the other towns that have a stormwater utility, base the system on an equivalent residential unit. It's based on an impervious surface. Ty and Bond and Emily is on board, so she's listening in and here to answer questions or to be driven out of town, one of the two, we're not sure yet. Did an extensive study using GIS technology and literally has a complete spreadsheet prepared that shows the impervious surface on every single property in town.
Yeah.
So we have determined that our single-family residential, they have determined our single-family residential average impervious surface. So some are very big, some are very small, but you average them, it comes out to 3,025 square feet. So that unit becomes a 1 on impervious surface, and you have the impervious surface of the town, so that gives you the base number that you're looking for, and then you have the amount of money we want to generate, and that's sort of the question. The annual budget for next year is roughly $750,000. This program has a required capital improvement investment necessary. We are going to be needing to be building stormwater basins, stormwater treatment facilities, doing other such construction to physically reduce our phosphorus load in the Charles River Basin. So it's to set a fee that hits us right in the number of the annual budget is not paying attention to the requirements that we have related to capital and capital projects.
All right. Now I know.
So,
go ahead, Don. Sorry. Good.
Oh, go ahead. If you want to ask now, I'm going to sort of get into what the fee structure that Ty and Bond put together for us, and
no,
I'm just more technical. But
just going to say that this is something that since I first became a member of the board has been hanging over our heads. This is a unfunded federal mandate that the EPA has put forth, and we've had to invest a certain amount of money that's been coming out of our operational budget for years, just to do some of the basics. Now it's coming to a head now, and the money that we've been investing isn't really enough to do everything they want us to do. So that's the genesis of establishing the enterprise fund. So basically now what we're trying to do is establish how much we're going to charge to fund the enterprise fund. Again, this isn't something that I don't know. And I know Mr. Connor was on the board before I was, and Mr. Martinez, you've been kind of sitting there with it as well. Don's always been, it's coming down the road. It's going to be there. It's going to hit us eventually, and it's hitting us now. So we need to figure out how we're going to fund it. And, we're trying to do it in the least intrusive way we can to residents, hopefully. But again, we have no choice. Looking at the numbers, $24 quarterly for a single residential home, 2 to 3 family residential home is $48 quarterly. Yes, I know it's more funds, more money that town has to pay, but otherwise it's coming out of operational budgets. And as we all know, that the operational budget isn't going to be great this year or going forward because of COVID. So I appreciate the work that Ty and Bond has done. Don, the time you've put in, Mary, Dennis, working with these groups. You know, what can I say? I'll open up to my colleagues. Yes, Don.
Mr. Spencer, is there I haven't seen the spreadsheet. Maybe I missed an email. I don't think so. Is there a way to share that spreadsheet so we can, who has the spreadsheet?
I think Hillary.
Well, the whole spreadsheet that's got all 6,000 properties in it is rather.
I don't want to
cumbersome.
look at 6,000. I just want to know the number.
You want to know what we're proposing for rates, is that?
Yes, that's what I want to know.
Yep.
Okay, so if you can let me share, I think I've got it in here this way. I'm using the technology on my laptop, but not the speaker. So we'll see. I've got it on mine. Share screen. Let's, I don't know. There we go. Okay.
Okay, thank
so
you.
So this is that's what you're looking for, Don?
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm looking for.
All right, so this is what Ty and Bond just put together. All of it is draft. So, I mean, this is 2000. My suggestion, actually, what we accepted, will we just do one fiscal year at a time? So this would just be for fiscal year 2021, because I think there's just too many variables in the funding, as well as credits and how many people are going to be this, that, and the other thing. So this has got a small residential, which again is any single family home, no matter how, if they have, 3 helicopter pads and a mansion, it's going to be the same $96 to somebody who has, a minimal drive or a gravel driveway in a house. That's tiers can be used. Like I think Emily has mentioned that one of the, I think Acton has something like 6 tiers of residential. That's just going to be cumbersome on the billing process. The next is 2 and 3 family residential. Anything that's a 2 and 3 family residential, which is code R2, will pay 2. And again, it's not everybody's at that size, but 2 actually happens to be a very accurate calculation for 2. If you put all 2 and 3 family homes together and do an average, it comes out to 1.96 or something like that. So that's a logical number. Getting into the commercial and larger residential, as opposed to trying to bill everybody, 36.2 ERUs or something like that, Ty and Bond proposes this plan, which I think makes sense, which sort of creates groups. Again, if you're in the group, if you're in tier 1, you're in group effectively 0 to 5 ERUs. So the people will get a bill that's dead on their ERUs if you're right in the middle there. If you're 2.5, some pay less, some pay a little more, but it's a reasonable grouping, and that's the case throughout. They looked at when you look at the whole spreadsheet, you see like you sort of define groupings for ERUs 6 to 15, and then 16 to 25, and then 26 to 35, which allows us to come out with a sort of a fair number for the average of that group, and bill a set fee. They'll get they will pay $720, which is 20 times. These people will pay 10 times. These people will, 20 times. 20 times 10, and anyway, I think you know where I'm going. That's the multiplication is in here. They're not billed the number of ERUs. They're billed in that tier. Their billing group would be in that tier. We're going to look at pulling out condominiums, which are presently probably all in this next tier, and because we want to bill condominium owners like we do for water and sewer now, the individual owner, not a condominium association, which would be very cumbersome and complicated because we don't really bill them now. But that leaves us with our last group, which is the vast properties. Several of them in town. I think there's a dozen. I could probably find my spreadsheet, but the sort of difference in here from the thing, obviously the range is huge, and the difference in here is rather than charging 304 ERUs, which would be $30,000 at the current rate, there is a max, and I think it's about 12 properties that get the maximum bill of $12,000. So it's just a matter of trying to not make it a put you out of business type thing for the plazas you know, maybe Rock and Coals and you know, North Main Street that don't have the huge background anyway, or backing as the Home Depots and the cinema and so forth. So that was the thought. And there was a lot of discussion with Dennis, Jim, Emily, and I as to what's a fair number there. And we were at 8, but if you go as low as 8, then everybody else is going to pay something to make up for it. So it's one of those things. And that's sort of what the system comes up as. Again, condos needs to be split out. We won't be sending our first bill out until October 1st. So we can iron out details and so forth. Accepting this will, I think, put us in a position that Mary can then go to town meeting and say, this is what, you know, this is what stormwater will at least generate, and take it from there. What else? The 12, I don't know if the number's greater than 35. It doesn't say the number, but 12, the maximum annual fee is 12,000 in this current proposal.
Right.
And that can be changed every year. So I've talked about, go ahead. Yeah, I'll talk a bit. And, you know,
so Don, as far as I know, you talked about the condominiums. Looking at the fourth line down, it's 12,000, 12,000, 12,000. Then there's a 23,232 with the asterisk.
If you get the table open, wait a minute, let me grab the table if I can.
Yep.
Is this it? We'll see. There we go. Okay.
Yep.
Now
That's the
everybody
one.
can see it.
Yep.
Yep.
So just looking at, I could be completely. So the impervious surface, impervious area is 729,518 square feet with the ERU of 242. And why does that number seem so much bigger? Is that just because we're trying to figure out a different number because it's a condo complex? So we're not maxing them out at the 12, or?
No, that's, yeah, and that's exactly, the intention will be there. That condo, I think there's another one not too far down, apartments or something else, but on this sheet, there are a couple of the condos, and this isn't the full sheet, but that's exactly why.
All right.
They won't be maxed out. All right.
Yeah, no, so based on the ERU, that's what the number would be. However, we're going to cap them at 12,000.
That's for everything else. You want
okay.
The condominiums, what we're looking to calculate is all of the condominiums in town, all of their impervious surface, divide that by all the units.
Okay.
And expect it to come in with a number somewhat below the $24 or right around the $24. It won't be higher anyway. It won't be higher than the $24
okay.
per quarter.
All right. Thank you. And again, this is a unfunded federal mandate. Just so anyone who happens to listen to this or watch this again, this is not something the town wants to do. This is something the town has to do. Just gonna throw that out there. Any other comments, questions for Don, or?
I have 5 or 6.
Have at it, my friend.
All right. First off, I'm opposed to the $12,000 cap. I think you should pay what it has to be. The question is, if you did have a $12,000 cap, would you still be eligible for the 30% credit for mitigation?
No, and then we've kicked that around. That was fairly simple. We need to, there's 2 things we need to get resolved. One is, which you haven't seen much of any of, I don't even think I sent those. We have to draft it, and we have to accept regulations. That can be done again before we send the first bill out, and that will need review from our town council. The other thing we need to do is have a credit manual on how we issue credits. And one of the items for sure in the credit manual is if you're being billed the max, you're not going to get credit off of that. That's just, you're completely, your 12, 14, whatever properties are excluded from even being able to apply for that. So that's sort of that's a no-brainer.
If you can't earn the credit, what's their incentive to do something about it?
Well, it's not really intended to be an incentive. It's intended to understand that some people will want to do something. Yeah. It's not a huge credit, but the cost of the stormwater system has less to do with your individual impervious, although it's combined into what makes us an urban area.
Yep.
Has it to do with, you front on the street, and the street is part of the town, and the street and the catch basin systems and so forth. So it's not like, you do everything possible at your house so that your house is no different than forest. Everything recharges. You're still going to pay a significant portion to cover what's all of our impervious surface, the schools, and,
Right.
so that's,
Mr.
so they're not going to get more than 30% break anyway.
Mr. Carter, before you go into the rest of the question, I just actually want to ask Dawn, if you don't mind.
Yeah, please.
We're looking, right now, we're basically looking, and I know we can tweak the rates for the most part going forward, but we're looking for the establishment of the budgeted amount, just so we can go ahead with the budget. And if we have to tweak the rates, is that something we're giving ourselves some room to do, or?
Well, that's the latest breakdown I got from Time Bond, if I can pull it up, is actually at the current at the $24.
Yeah.
And there's also no senior discount. We have the potential, again, first time in the system, of generating $1.2 million. So $24 can be tweaked down anyway.
Okay.
If we want to go
Right.
down far to be right at 7,500, I don't trust that, because I don't think, again, this is a new system. We don't really know what we're going to get until we're through it a bit.
So are we looking to, I guess, establish the rates tonight, or are we looking to establish the amount of the enterprise fund?
Dan, if I could.
Yes, please, Dan.
You're absolutely right. What we're looking to do is establish the rates, and we would be adopting this fee schedule. But the first time we're going to bill this won't be until October.
Okay.
Although a full year would generate $1.2 million, we'll be generating 75% of that for this year, which does cover our budget, which will allow us to go forward with town meeting and adopt the stormwater budget.
Okay.
We have at least a month or two where they'll be building the file and getting all the billing ready. So if the board wanted to look at different scenarios, such as what happens if we uncap the $12,000 cap, or what happens if we look to have a 50% senior discount, or all sorts of scenarios, we can certainly do that. We know the number that we need to back into is 1.2 million. But we adopt this, and the board can certainly, at our next meeting or next several meetings, if you want to look at different scenarios, because we've been looking at scenarios over the last couple of months. What happens if? And this is our best shot at it. When we presented this to town meeting, we talked in terms of a $20 to $25 fee for residential. We're at that, and the structure goes from there based on the amount of impervious.
All right. So we're establishing, for lack of a better term, the levy, as opposed to how it's actually going to be broken down.
Well, you can change how it's broken down, but you're right. The dollar amount is there, so Mary can sleep at night knowing that we're going to raise what
exactly. All right.
Budget that we present, but certainly we can adjust this before the bills go out.
All right.
And the two things I think could be voted tonight is what that one ERU value is, quarterly or annually, doesn't really matter. So it's sitting in the forms as 24 for the quarterly. Everything else calculates up from there. And the other is to accept the fee structure, where we've got 1, 2, for the various places to get. So those are sort of the two things to nail down, so that we know how to do the math.
All right. And Mr. Connor, I'm just going to ask one more question. I'm going to go right back to you. So to Mr. Connor's point, if we eliminated the cap of 12,000, then the quarterly fees for residential and 2 and 3 and tier 1, 2 and 3, 4 could actually go down.
That's correct.
Yeah, they would go down, but when it's in the real scheme of things, because we have what is it, a dozen, maybe 15 properties that hit the max.
Yeah.
And some of them are big money, but it's not like it's going to take it from 24 to 14.
Okay. All right. Mr. Connor, I apologize. Continue on.
That's good questions, Dan. I guess from the I guess it's the perception standpoint of people will say, well, the residents are offsetting the costs of what Amazon pays. So my viewpoint is that caps can be dangerous, appreciating that things such as what's passed on to the Dunkin' Donuts Plaza is very different than how it's handled for Amazon or Lincoln Properties or everything else. I think we have to be very cognizant of how that looks. Second,
Mike, if I could on that,
Yep.
one of the things that you've got to keep in mind is they spend enormous amounts of money mitigating and meeting today's stormwater standards. So that's one of the things that was brought to our attention, that these, particularly the newer properties from the mid-90s on, have had to invest tremendous amounts of money to manage their stormwater, unlike older projects and unlike residential properties.
so an older project is given the incentive of a 30% discount if they go and do those things. While a newer project, if Amazon was $25,000 and they got 30% on that, they're going to get $7,500 off, so they'd be at $17,500.
Yeah. So to your point, maybe it's, and something we can talk about is maybe they can either have the capped rate, whatever that is, without the ability to file credits, or they can, go for the full rate and file for whatever credits they may get.
It could also be an opportunity to say whatever the senior discount is that we come up with, that is how much the cap gets raised.
Sure.
Okay. Second thing is, when we do things like the Charles, we're not billing individual units. That's just one bill that goes to the owner of the apartment complex, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, we got to tweak that a little, because I think we go with bills to the owner. Same thing with Oakwoods Apartments, but we have 3 different meter readings. So whether we'll put it on one account or the logistics, and some of the concerns about doing this is that logistics as well. The complications of billing, we're hoping it doesn't bite us in the nose.
Yeah. I would say for Ty and Bond's benefit, I thought their 9 or 10 page spreadsheet was very informative, because when I looked at page 1 through 3, the $12,000 cap was laid out, and it was 291 million ERUs, I think was the number. But page 7 and 8 had that 1.5 ERUs for a 2 unit versus 4 ERUs, but it was the same price. Is that, Dawn, because we're averaging it out across all properties in the town?
I'm afraid I don't have the same spreadsheet in front of me, so I'm trying to wrap my head around that. It might have been one of the earlier proposals. We were looking at. Go ahead, Emily.
I was gonna say, I have that right in front of me. It's from the illustrative examples.
Yep, page 7.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Yep. Yeah, it's just that those 2 properties both ended up in that R2 category, so they're getting charged for that average of 2 ERUs that Don explained.
Okay. When we talk about condos in town, that's taking up all of the private roads, such as the condo that's off of Blackstone Street and Maple Street, correct?
Yeah, it's impervious surface. So it's the roads, it's their private roads, their driveways, everything.
So
roofs, swimming pools.
Do we have discussions with the condo association to say that we're going to charge the homeowners based on their property and the roads based on the fact that they're private roads? And how does that go over?
Well, that's why what we're looking to do is look at all the condominium associations
That would be
in town.
page 9 of the tie-in bond, I think.
That would, yeah, and it's just numbers we got to glean out. What they have those numbers. What they don't have is the occupants on how many occupied units there are in all of them combined. So take that gross number of impervious surface for all condominiums as if they were just in one place, and the number of residents, and divide that number, and that would be what we come up with compared to what the ERU is. It might even be a separate condo fee that could be, you know, $20 a unit or something like that. In other words, a completely separate tier or category in the billing system.
And is there any
But
advantage?
that's what, as opposed to trying to say, well, I mean, Maplebrook's got a lot more road, maybe it's that, but if you think of it, some of them actually have have a lot of impervious surface in a much smaller area. So, you know, it's not, none of this is easy. You're just sort of coming at it any way we can.
But you will account for all the private roads.
Yes, they're already in, when you look at the other spreadsheet of what it is, that's all of the impervious in the entire property that is the Maplebrook condos, the entire picture.
Okay.
Which is actually like 5 or 6 different condo associations. That's another reason we want to build the condo owners. We already bill them for water and sewer. And if we had to break out and determine the areas as well as the billing per each of these condo associations, that would be a logistic nightmare.
So it's our advantage to build a condo association and not get into a individual collection agent for each unit.
Well, that's the opposite is true, because we don't send any bills to the condo association now. So then they'd be collecting. We do send bills to condo owners. So we send water and sewer bills to condo owners. We just send them a water, sewer, and stormwater bill.
Relative to those bills, if we're going to be consistent, shouldn't we have a split rate? If we're going to say it's 24 and 750,000 is for the budget, why don't we go with an 18 and 6 formula? Because as we learn more about the budget, or as we have more capital needs, we would have the ability to alter the 2 numbers on people's bills. Because I think as I look at my capital charge for water and sewer, I can understand that the town's doing projects versus trying to say, where is it going into the budget? I think if we're going to do it for water and sewer, we need to do it for this.
Okay, that's something I'm not going to be able to hash out tonight, but that's very understandable. So
yeah, okay. And can you quantify, like, the project that occurred behind Town Hall to mitigate some of the water? What was the cost of that? Because if we're looking at $250,000 a year, how far does that go?
I think the total on that project was probably in the $150,000 range, maybe a little bit less than that. We had a grant for some of that one, but yeah, it's not inexpensive.
Well, I guess my point is,
and we have
$1 million for water and sewer. Why are we at 250,000 for this when we know that the cost of one project that probably is not a very large one is 150,000?
We could look for more. There's no doubt about it. I'm a little hesitant to go too crazy. We also have, I think, 3 more years before we need to even start the program. So that as much as anything, the first few years will be seed money and design engineering money.
Yep.
So we don't, and I hesitate to set a fee that's going to make us, $500,000 that we're only going to spend 250 for the first few years. There's no doubt that as we get into this, especially as we get into the 5th year and submit our master plan, what projects we're going to do, it's going to be big money.
Yeah, no, I think
there's a lot of planning there.
My point was to say is if a project was going to cost $1 million, that seed money would take 4 years to develop. If you're saying that 500,000 is enough and 2 years of 250 works, then that's a reasonable number.
Well, that's what I think. I think we're in the planning phases right now, so we don't want to ask for money if we don't need it.
Mm-hmm.
I think where we're sitting right now is going to put us in a position to have the seed money to get some the design work going, and the design work will include hard, fast numbers that we know, then we can look at in a game plan. How many we need to do a year.
Yeah, I don't know, Mary, if you have it or if Dawn has it, but so that we are consistent, if we do a discount for the seniors, how that is determined on a percentage basis for water, sewer, and trash. I know that I've heard some seniors were concerned about the Prop 2.5 override, and other than to say that, hey, you get a discount on those 3, it would be beneficial to say on a percentage basis versus a homeowner under the age of 60, what an over 60 resident receives. And I think we should be consistent across all four now, water, sewer, trash, and this one. The rest, I think I answered my
Yeah,
own.
the water discount is the discount in the capital fee. I don't believe there's a senior discount, and there is I think they're running trash. But there's no senior discount for water and sewer consumption.
No, I agree, but whatever that is, if it's on capital, then it should be on the 6. If we're gonna split this as 18 and 6, the discount should be on the 6, not the 18.
Yep.
I guess that's what I'm just trying to say. We should be consistent for all 4 enterprise funds.
Fair enough.
That's it for me.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, Michael, as usual, you make my brain hurt. But you make a lot of sense.
Do you need a second on that?
What's that?
Do you need a second on that?
No, I know when my brain hurts. We're good.
Can I make it sound like I understood his questions?
You did pretty good. Yeah. And then when in doubt, you defer to Mary. So that always works out. All right. Any other comments, questions, concerns? All right. So then, are we looking to adopt the fee structure as presented at this point? And then looking to amend as far as caps go, and maybe adjusting the 24 to 18.6 type thing. Again,
I think my suggestion to maybe oversimplify is to set the ERU for single family at $24 a quarter. And
okay.
Set the fees, accept what you see in front of you.
Yeah.
And understand that you can have a meeting tomorrow afternoon and revisit them. But as far as planning to amend, yeah, we plan to amend, but it doesn't need to be part of the motion.
All right. So the stormwater fee schedule for fiscal years 2021 and 2022, with the single family residential rate at 24, and 2 and 3 family residential at 48. And then we got tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, tier 4, 48, 240, 480, and 720. And then the non-residential, very large housing over 34 ERUs, it'll vary up to the maximum fee. So that's what we're looking to accept at this point. Can I entertain a motion?
So moved.
We have a first from Mrs. McNulty. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second from Mr. Martinez.
Discussion.
And we have a discussion from Mr. Connor, because my brain doesn't hurt enough yet.
So by setting the 24 on it, are we saying that it is split 18 and 6?
Oh, it's not.
Yeah, I mean, we can almost make, whether it's 18 and 6.
Well, I guess to Mary's, it's got to go out on the bills that way, because I'm not comfortable with having a capital charge that's just rolled into one single number.
So can I jump in for a second? I think that I don't know that I'm comfortable putting that separately delineated on the bill. I think we have some challenges with some space constraints on the bill itself. I think we can accomplish what you're talking about, Mr. Connor, within the rate structure and have a notation in the rate structure, so that when we apply any credits or discounts, it's a flat amount against the stormwater utility user charge. We don't account for water, although you guys have discussed and structured a water capital fee on the water bill. That is not a separate enterprise fund. It is all part of the water enterprise fund, and it is all part of the water user charges, much like I'm suggesting the stormwater is as well. So when we look at the $24 in the rate structure on paper, what you're suggesting is that $18 is for the operating budget and $6 is for capital, and that's fine. And when we build the discount, we build it into the structure on paper, but that's not what necessarily they're going to see on the bill itself. It has been, in my limited experience here, it's generated an awful lot of confusion for folks who think that the water capital charge is a separate enterprise fund, and that's simply not the case.
No, it's an accounting event, but if we were to give the credit, the 30% credit, are we giving it on the full 24, or are we giving it on the capital?
From a logistics standpoint, it depends on how we set up this credit policy, and when it gets entered into the software, it can be entered in the tables in such a manner to calculate it properly. So the credit would be based on, a third of the ERU rate, and then we apply a discount. It doesn't necessarily need to be specifically delineated as a row on the bill itself. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, if it was on the operating budget and we're giving a 30% credit on the 18, it'd be 22.5%.
Yep, and that's all handled within the software.
Okay. All right, thank you. All right. As far as the motion goes, if we're gonna set it at 24, can we leave open-ended the cap to be reviewed versus the senior discount?
So, yeah, you want to amend that? So,
well, I would just like to add to, I mean, you can say it's at 24, we can amend it later, but I think once Mary gives the information on what the discounts are on the other 3 enterprise funds, that we be consistent with this one and then increase the cap from 12,000 to a number that offsets the senior discount.
All right, so so the cap, basically what we have is varies up to a max fee. It doesn't actually say the cap of 12,000, right, in the motion?
Actually does, further down in the wording it does.
Oh, it does.
Down here.
All right.
Yeah. So this is all part
So
of it.
then, all right, so the cap to be TBD, and with the senior discount to be offset from a potential raise in the cap.
That would work for me.
All right. Can we add that to the motion? Hillary, you got all this? Making your job easy tonight.
Hopefully Jim's recording it for me.
All right. All right. So we have an amendment to the original motion. Do we have a second to the amendment?
Second.
We have a second from Mr. Martinez. All right. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you.
0. Excellent. All right. Thank you, Don.
Think you're done with me?
I
Thank
think
you very
we're
much.
done with you. Yes.
As I said a million times 5 or 6 years ago, I never want to stand up in front of town meeting or the Board of Selectmen and ask for a stormwater rate.
Aye.
So never say never.
Have I mentioned that this is a federally unfunded mandate, by the way? Just throwing it out there.
First time I heard that. First time I heard that. Okay, thank you very
All
much.
right. Thanks, Don. All right. Town administrator report.
Yeah, just continue on the stormwater theme. One of the things that we can do now is go ahead and maybe have a couple of members that are interested. I know that Michael is, and we can do some more meetings to come up with some different scenarios, work through some different things that maybe we didn't think of. As I say, we've been working on this for quite a while, so we can certainly do that and go back and revisit it and take a look at the cap and other things that may address some of the concerns.
All right.
Just, yeah, a couple of things. Last week, the board voted to refer to themselves as Select Board, and we do have a charter requirement that, as we suspected, that would require us to go ahead and when we have our charter change in 2023, I think it can be accomplished then. So for legal documents, we would continue with Board of Selectmen. I did talk with Amy Questle, Town Council, but as far as how the board refers to itself, certainly Select Board is fine. But again, when we sign bonds or deeds, those types of things, we Board of Selectmen, and it's one of those notes that we need to make for a 2022 when we formed the charter committee and the 2023 when it would actually be presented. And by charter, we have a charter review every 10 years on years ending with 3, and that's why I say 2023. A couple of other just quick things. I know Mr. Connor had mentioned executive session minutes. We're going to be making a list of all the meetings that we've had that no longer require us to keep executive session minutes private, and we'll have those for you, and you'll be able to vote on those. And the ones that do have to remain private, then we can go ahead and vote to accept those. But that will require you to come in, look at those, and sign off on them. So we'll have that in the next week or so for you to review. Silver Lake opened without any problems, really. And playgrounds, something I've been talking with Jim about. Playgrounds can open, and it's a little bit trickier. We have to make sure that we have hand sanitizer available and signs up suggesting that children observe proper social distancing. So that'll be a challenge, but we will do that. One of the things we've been meeting, as you know, we started 5 days a week, then 3 days a week with Access. We have a meeting on Wednesday where we'll have Representative Soda come in and give an update on where we're at as far as state issues go and the budget. And also post-election, we'll have Larry give that. What do you think on those 10 o'clock meetings? The 9 o'clock, I think we'll go with, but the 10 o'clock, do you think they've served their purpose and we're ready to retire those?
Well, I'm a non-factor these days, so I'll let it to the rest of my board at this point.
I was actually trying to line up the Fresh Blend or Perfect Blend and Connect Ed to come in to talk about their ice cream, but I didn't reach out to them yet. It's up to you guys what you want to do.
Who does Wednesday?
Me, Cindy.
Then you can still have them come in because we're going to be meeting Wednesday, and Mike, of course, will be brief. And then we have yeah. So,
that'll be the last one, maybe.
Unless people think otherwise, if we should go once a week.
Yeah.
I don't know what everybody's thinking on these things.
I think the questions that are coming in are pretty much the same questions we're getting every single week.
I agree.
So for me, I mean, I've heard good things from townspeople. They like to watch it. Maybe you give them, signing off next Monday or something along those lines, Wednesday, and then one more just to say, hey, this is it. Hope it served its purpose. We'll still continue to send in questions. Just an idea, instead of ending it abruptly on Wednesday.
Sure, we could go.
Give them a little notice.
Finish the week and then just let people know.
Yeah.
And then we're still going to give, reverse 911 calls. We're still going to give the, the updates on the website. I mean, the good thing is like I said, when we started doing these, when you stop seeing us, that's a good thing.
Yep.
Because that means we're approaching the end, or at least the, hopefully the end, but we'll see. So, yeah. So, I mean, if you want, just finish this week and then, and maybe Wednesday and Friday kind of give a heads up that, the 10 o'clock's going to go away, but you'll still get the updates. I think we'll be good to go.
As people go back to work, we start to lose our audience. So I think
for sure.
That sounds good.
That is a good thing. And other things are moving. I know a lot of you are able to join us at 9 o'clock. Things are happening with the senior center, the library, and soon the town hall. I think we're getting closer there. I know of only a couple of town halls that have actually opened. I did have a conversation with town council about it. We are getting closer. There are some office requirements that we're going to have to meet, but we may be exempt from some of that stuff too, and we'll be working on that in the next week or so.
Hey, Dennis, I have a question. Where are we with town meeting planning? I know there's some ideas kicked around. We're going to do it outdoors and indoors. Has a final decision been made?
I told Larry we'd get together after the election, so we're going to be.
Oh, okay. Yeah, all right.
The preference is to do it indoors because we can do the balloting the same way, and so that would be the preference to go inside. We have an auditorium that holds just over 900. So we're going to get in there and count and see what we can do for social distancing and make sure that we can accommodate a decent crowd and have a plan for overflow. Typically, as you know, town meetings attract maybe 200. Worst case, if we plan for 300 with an overflow, I think we could accommodate that. The alternative is I've seen pictures of town halls that have been held on football fields, and they set it up kind of the way they did that state police graduation a month ago. I think a lot of people saw it on Gillette Field. They just spread the chairs out 6 feet in all directions. So that's an option, but I think from logistically, the preference would be to do it indoors if we're ready to do that.
All right. Dan, so actually, I got a couple calls from people about town hall opening, and you know, their impression was that would be a great sign. If the town hall opens, then people would start having confidence that we're getting, you know, closer to the end than we are to the beginning of this whole thing. And I explained we're just waiting on state, you know, state guidance as far as that goes, because we're kind of, I don't want to say victims, but we're kind of at you know, the governor's discretion. But it would be great. And, you know, I know there's a lot of people who just, you know, they like to walk in and pay their bills and get that stamp and not put it in the mailbox and wonder if they really got, you know, the payment processed. So, so once we can get the town hall open, even if it's at a limited capacity, then I think a lot of people will be happier and just seeing a little bit of progress, you know?
Yep. I agree, Dan, and we'll be talking about that and looking at what we need to do to move in that direction and when that happens. So.
Yep. All right.
Dan, I will offer that people have been fantastic, and we have not had any issues with people banging on the door to come in and pay their bills, and that they have done a great job complying with our remote requirements, and we are notifying them that their payments have been received. So the process has been very smooth, but we here at Town Hall are also eager to open up and serve the public face to face.
I know. I hear you. I hear. Thank you, guys. I thank everyone that's been at Town Hall and doing everything that you guys have been doing. So, all right. Anything else, Dan?
Questions?
Nope, that's it.
All right, Mr. Connor.
What's any update on Sunoco?
I don't. I can check with Tim and find out. I know they had a plan to remove so many cars each week, but I'm not sure where they're at. But I can talk with.
Hey, Dennis. I can just add, just from my viewpoint, I've driven by there several times, and I have to say over the weekend, I actually took note there were dramatically fewer cars.
Good.
So I'm not saying they're down to the number we want them to be at, but there was definitely fewer cars.
I know that correspondence went out from town council, and there was conversation between attorneys or between our attorney and the manager of the owner's son, and there was an agreement on how many cars would be removed each week. So that was the plan moving forward. But I will check with Tim on that.
Good.
All right, Mr. Connor, anything else?
Yeah, two other quick ones. We still haven't seen that pole removed on Maple Street. That's right by 495. Verizon was supposed to do that.
Yep, we have a plan in place on that. Gary Remillard, our electrician, is going to be, or has been coordinating with them. Things got kind of derailed. That was supposed to be an April job, but with COVID, it got pushed back. But there is a plan in place to get that done.
Right, and the last thing, I guess, from a broadcasting standpoint, is there any reason we can't return to town hall for our meetings?
Well, I think the only issue would be is if you had public come in, because we are restricted as to the number of people that can come into the building, but I don't know that we would ever reach that number. I can certainly take a look at that, and we can talk about it. And, you know, we certainly.
Meeting, but for everyone except us and whoever we invite for the agenda.
Of course, you need to keep your distancing too. We'd have to accommodate that as well. You know, I mean, either that or wear masks or something, but we can certainly take a look at that and find out, you know, same discussion that we're having with regard to opening up town hall.
I just like seeing you wearing a jacket and tie, Dennis, instead of a.
as opposed to a golf ball. I always
Yeah,
wear
I'm
a
enjoying wearing shorts.
You always wear shorts. You're under the table.
All right, we're
Hey,
not going to go
I'm
there.
only kidding. I do have something I'd like to bring up, just to let everyone know on the board over the weekend. And Jim, Mr. Cuffer Jim is aware of this. We had an issue, and we've had some other issues too, with the large tractor trailers. They've got to be contract vendors or something for Amazon. They're actually either, coming in off of Mechanic Street and taking a left onto High Street. I believe their GPS is taking them because there's an emergency exit and entrance over there. And as a result, we had a couple of families that, emailed me. I know I forwarded information off to Jim to look into this, but it's a situation where the tractor trailer got halfway down and realized, uh-oh, I can't get into this area, and then proceed to try to back up on High Street to Maple Street. A phone call was placed to the police department, and they took note, and they were asked, hey, can you send somebody down? This is an emergency situation. I mean, this tractor trailer, and it was pitch dark, it's having a really hard time backing onto Maple Street. And I know we were very busy over the weekend, but there was no police cars dispatched. So I think we ought to just figure out, I'm sure maybe they were just spread too thin, but this is happening, and we're also getting trucks that are trying to take a left on 126 onto High Street. Once they see that, I was talking to Russ LaFond over the weekend. He brought to my attention, they're going down on, what is it, the street, Jim, right after the pumping station, Main Ave. They're taking a left on Main Ave to try to turn around. So all I'm saying is that, the Save Maple Street Facebook page lit up this weekend. And I did get a couple of calls and an email. I'm just saying, I know did you reach out to Amazon to let them know what happened, Jim? What was their reaction?
Yeah, I reached out to them this morning. They got right back to me too, said that they're going to investigate it and get back to me, hopefully tomorrow. Those pictures were really helpful. That I provided them those. And in terms of Main Ave, I know Don DiMartino is working on some signage to post there. My understanding through the observations is that they now are, because we have the signage on High Street, the trucks are being relocated and sent the very next left, which doesn't obviously work out because that just brings you right back to High Street.
Yeah, exactly.
So working on some additional signage there with the hopes that now that's going to get you all the way to Mechanic Street and or down Mechanic Street onto Maple Street.
Right.
The proper turn.
Again, I'm not bringing this up to complain about the traffic on the road. It's just we're having these, and these are just growing pains with the facility. We had the same issues with Victory when they first opened up, and that seemed to we were able to slow them down a bit and change that. So just wanted to let you know, because I did get a lot. We're in a public meeting. I want the public to know that we're on top of it and we're addressing the issues.
All right.
That's it, Dan.
Any additional business?
Yeah, Mary needs to do some transfers.
Oh yeah, transfers. Oh geez.
Yeah.
Sorry, Mary.
No worries. No worries. This shouldn't take too long. So earlier this afternoon, I emailed out a second request of interdepartmental transfers. These are normal and customary, as we've talked about before. In this particular case, we've got some payroll adjustments to some payroll accounts that just need to be corrected. It was part of the way that we had posted the contract negotiations, and now I need to do some housekeeping to clean up some matters at year end. And from the schedule that was sent to you, you can see that the funding source that we're utilizing is some savings in our debt service budget, and that was due to the fact that we renewed our bans in May of this year during an economic collapse, and so our net interest cost was much lower than we had estimated it was going to be. Therefore, we have some savings in the debt service budget that is being utilized to cover these transfers. This is not any increased taxation. This is just simply moving money from one department to another, and the list has been presented to you guys. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
I have none. Anyone else on the board?
None. No, I've looked at it.
All right. So the motion would be to do the interdepartmental budget transfers from savings from debt service to the various departments that has been presented to us by Mary via the spreadsheet.
So moved.
So moved.
We have a first from Mr. Connor. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second, Mr. Biaggi. Any further discussion, comments, questions? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 0.
Excellent. So Dan, next time you come in, would you mind just popping over and signing the form for me?
Yep, I'll hop in tomorrow.
Thank you.
You bet. All right. Any further old business, new business? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
We have a first
Second.
from Mr. Biaggi. We have a second from Mr. Martinez. All those in favor say aye.
Mary has a question.
Opposed?
I just want to remind everybody, don't forget to vote tomorrow
Oh, that's right.
and support
How
our
could we
Proposition
forget?
2.5 override, as
That's
well as our
right.
candidates that are on the ballot.
Tomorrow, you know what? And tomorrow is election day. And Mr. Biaggi, Mr. Martinez, I know we did this last week because we thought we were meeting tonight. So do you guys want to have a quick, not a campaign speech, but a quick address to the public?
I do. I just want to say best of luck to Bob Biaggi. And it's been a pleasure serving on the board with you guys. So hopefully I get another 3 years, but just want to say thank you.
I would echo that sentiment. Good luck to Bob Biaggi. No. Good luck to you as
I
well.
love it, Bob.
I've really enjoyed this first year, and hopefully I'll be able to continue on the board.
Best of luck to everyone tomorrow. And other than that, good night all.
Good night. Take care.
Good night.
Thanks, everyone.